Mikal Bridges is the most underrated player in the NBA. Ever since getting acquired by the Brooklyn Nets, Mikal Bridges has looked like a completely different player. Although he was doing a really nice job at consistently improving his game year after year with the Suns, with Brooklyn he's really taken his game to the next level and looks like a star for the Nets. And in my opinion, due to a couple different factors, I think people don't necessarily realize how good Mikal Bridges truly is. But quickly, before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm JuicySports, I make opinionated NBA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. I also want to quickly mention that I recently started up an MMA channel, and if you guys are interested in that, the link will be in the description. But anyways, let's get into it. Mikal Bridges was originally drafted with the number 10 overall selection originally by the Philadelphia 76ers, but then traded to the Phoenix Suns on draft night. And when Mikal was coming into the NBA, he was actually seen as a really talented young player. He was seen as a guy that was an extremely talented young defender that could defend a bunch of different positions at the next level, but he was also seen as a guy that would do a really nice job at spreading the court out effectively. He was basically seen as a 3-and-D type guy with upside, and whenever you talk about 3-and-D guys, they're always extremely valuable to any team in the NBA because every team always needs more defenders and they always need more shooting. So if you can get a guy that's able to do both, of course you can imagine how valuable it could be to a roster. But when you talk about a younger guy like Mikal Bridges was coming into the NBA, and you have that 3-and-D type ability, but you also have some more upside alongside with that, you can just imagine how valuable teams would view Mikal Bridges as. And in Mikal's first season with the Suns, I would say he played relatively well. He averaged 8 points per game on 3.2 boards and 2.1 assists. And although those numbers don't necessarily jump out at you, at the same time you have to consider that a lot of what Mikal was doing in his rookie year wasn't necessarily things that would be on the stat sheet. Like for example, the best thing that Mikal was showing in his rookie year was his overall defense. He showed a really good ability not only to defend small forwards at a high level, but to defend a bunch of different other positions at a high level as well. And basically the Suns had the ability to throw Mikal on the opposing team's best player each and every night, and Mikal would do a really good job on those players. But even besides that, the actual numbers that he did put up in his rookie year, I would still say are solid based upon what the expectations were for him coming into the league. But the great thing about Mikal is not only did his defensive abilities get better each and every season, but so did his offensive abilities. As each and every year, Mikal's numbers jumped up until eventually the last season with the Phoenix Suns, his numbers were phenomenal, averaging 17 points per game on 4.3 boards and 3.6 assists. And the reason why Mikal was able to put up such great numbers in his last year with the Suns is because of all the work he was putting within his offensive game over the years, and he was able to add so many different offensive abilities besides just being a 3-and-D type guy. But although Mikal was looking extremely good in his last season with the Suns, both offensively and defensively, the Suns ended up moving on from him in the Kevin Durant deal. Because although Mikal was looking like a really promising young player, at the end of the day, there was somewhat of a ceiling to what he would be able to do, and Kevin Durant was just far above that ceiling, so the Suns decided to trade for KD. And originally when the Nets acquired Mikal Bridges, people saw Mikal as a really talented young player that would be able to get a little bit better than he was the previous year, but people didn't necessarily think Mikal could get as good as he eventually got. As in his first year with the Brooklyn Nets, he completely had a breakout season, averaging 26 points per game on 4.5 boards and 2.7 assists. Now in that season with the Brooklyn Nets, you're talking about a guy that's putting up superstar type numbers. Mikal was doing a phenomenal job at spreading the court out effectively, but also doing an even better job at being the main focal point of the Nets offense. He was doing a great job at hitting those 1-dribble pull-up mid-range jump shots. He was doing a great job at driving all the way to the basket and utilizing his crazy wingspan to finish around players or even dunk over players at times, while also doing a great job at creating for himself from that 3-point range as well. Basically, Mikal Bridges was just a complete offensive player with the Nets in his first season with them, and it was somewhat of a surprise of how good he actually was, because not only was he putting up great numbers, but he was also very clutch for the Nets, and he was very efficient as well. And by the way, that's not to mention everything that he was doing defensively for Brooklyn as well. But although Mikal Bridges had a phenomenal season with the Nets, not only during the regular season, but even during the playoffs as well, I still don't necessarily think people realize how good Mikal Bridges truly is. And I think a huge reason for why that is people just weren't really watching all that many Nets games. The Nets recently moved on from their three superstars in KD, Kyrie, and James Harden, and I guess a lot of people just didn't necessarily expect all that much from Brooklyn, and they didn't watch all that many games. But when you actually watch Nets games, not only is Mikal Bridges playing very well, but they actually have a lot of other guys on their roster that are playing great. And I actually think a lot of the younger guys they have on the roster now not only can contribute right away, but they're also going to be long-term parts of their future. But moving back to Mikal Bridges specifically, I do think he has a really bright future with Brooklyn. I think the fact that he was given the keys to the Nets offense was a huge benefit for him because he got a lot more shot opportunities, he got more comfortable at putting up a lot of different shots that he probably wouldn't have put up in Phoenix, and I think due to that, not only did his confidence grow, but his overall skill grew as well. So going forward from here, I fully expect Mikal to continue on this trajectory of just getting better and better, and to be honest, at this point, based upon how well he played, I don't necessarily think it's all that unrealistic to say Mikal Bridges has a real chance to be a superstar. Because although he did put up superstar type numbers this season with the Nets, in order to call someone a superstar in my opinion, I think you need to put up those kind of numbers over a bigger sample size. And although Mikal played very well during the regular season and the playoffs, it was only one season of a sample size, so I would like to see him play a little bit longer like that, and then I could definitely consider him a superstar. But as I mentioned before, based upon everything that I saw from him last year, alongside with the fact that he was continuously getting better season after season with Phoenix, I don't really have any reason to believe why he couldn't continue on this trajectory and be a legitimate superstar in the long-term future. And if he is able to get to that kind of level, it's only going to be great for the Brooklyn Nets because they have this guy locked up for a decent amount of time, and if he turns into a superstar, their team is only going to get better during the regular season and also during the playoffs, which would attract some other star players maybe to come over during free agency, and the Nets could be right back on track to where they were supposed to be when they originally acquired both Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and also James Harden. So although a season ago when they traded away all three of their stars, things looked a little bit bleak, at this point based upon what they were able to get in return, alongside with some things they were able to do in free agency, to trade market, and the draft, I do actually think the Brooklyn Nets have a really bright future ahead of themselves, and Mikal Bridges is the main reason for why I feel that way. But even though I do think the Nets and Mikal Bridges himself have a really bright future ahead of themselves, at the same time this team is still relatively young, so we still need to be somewhat patient with them. Of course, this upcoming season we're going to expect them to make the playoffs, and hopefully they can make it a little bit further than they did last year, but of course at the same time they're not necessarily ready in order to compete with some of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. So if they make it to the playoffs and make it past the first round but lose in the second, that would actually be seen as a successful season for Brooklyn. But I guess only time will tell what does end up happening, not only for Mikal Bridges but also for the Brooklyn Nets. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think Mikal Bridges is one of, if not the most underrated players in the NBA, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these two videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.